artificial intelligence, the use is obviously not pigeonholed just to Fabry. So really what we're trying to do is look at large data sets and using deep learning and computer generated algorithms to identify patients that have certain features that might be consistent with Fabry, okay? And doing it in a really complex way, multiple times in a very short period of time, in a way that if I look at, 1,000 patients, but I want to prioritize them based on commonalities I might anticipate in Fabry, and some of those things we just mentioned, right? So we put those little pieces in there and say, I want to look for patients with these things, right? And then you kind of use that model to say, well, can I find the patients that Fabry is the most likely in? So instead of looking at all 1,000, maybe there are 10 that have these particular points of interest, right? And that at least gives you an opportunity to be more aggressive in who you screen. Because, right now we really don't know what the true prevalence of Fabry is, because I can make an argument without genetic testing, you can't say what the prevalence is, period. So, but could we identify patients that are more likely to be at risk in our general population and not break the bank by doing it, right? Genotyping however many billion people. What if we can use a data set and identify people that we think are more likely to have Fabry, pull those out and do testing on them, right? So it's not the needle in the haystack anymore. I mean, it's really more of a needle in a needle. I mean, there's really not a lot of other things. Now, is it guaranteed that all those patients are going to have Fabry? No, it's not. But there probably is some genetic etiology behind what they have, and at least we're going to look in a little more thoughtful way to them. So really what artificial intelligence does, and we do this for other more common types of heart disease, so atrial fibrillation, people are going to develop stroke, people are going to develop heart attacks. We do it for Parkinson's disease, we do it for cancer. There are all kinds of literature reports or peer-reviewed manuscripts out there about using AI. The beauty of something like Fabry is that, you can take a large cohort, but some of these findings are very unique and discrete to Fabry, whereas other things sometimes aren't. And one common complaint, let's say that I'm looking for Fabry and I just want to look at fatigue. Well, that in and of itself would capture lots and lots and lots of people, right? So it's not particular to Fabry. But if I add other things in, I can really parse out what's different from maybe someone who has sleep apnea as opposed to someone who has Fabry. So it's really exciting. It's relatively cheap. And we've been collecting data on patients for decades. So why not take advantage of it? Now that we've demonstrated that it's feasible, right, which it is, now the question is, when do we get it into the clinical practice? And so, that rollout would probably involve some sort of maybe a real world kind of testing of some sort, maybe under a research umbrella or quality umbrella, where we can go through and try and look at this in our patients and say, here are my 50,000 patients in my healthcare system. I'm going to run this algorithm and I'm going to think there are 23 that might be suspect for Fabry, relatively high likelihood. And then test them, and that would give you an idea of what your accuracy is, right? How many false positives, how many false negatives, all that sort of thing. And so I think that's probably the next step. But I think what people need to know, and as a clinician, nothing to do with being a researcher, the question is always, that's way cool, when can I use it, right? And so I think the plan, honestly, for this particular technology probably is within the next 12 months at the latest. So that's pretty fast.